We're back.
Gentlemen, we're back. Wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey. We have the full complement this evening, as well as down here in the Alice and the Brady Bunch Square. We have Frank Steffens, Frank's Model Works on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and every other fine social media platform you may or may not find him on. Gentlemen, we last all saw each other a week and a half ago at NNL East. How's everybody doing?
Excellent.
Great.
Complain.
No complaints. All righty. So, everyone, welcome back to the Automotive Podcast. This will be episode 8. Or if you're listening to us on an audio platform, this is season 1, episode 3. I know, it's confusing, but it makes sense to me. I am thinking at some point of taking those first 6 episodes we did and editing them down, because when we get closer to the holidays, I don't want to do this because I work 6 days a week during those times. And I figure we all need Christmas and that time of year off anyway. So I'm thinking about saving those and sort of puttering them out, at that time. That way we'll have some content out there, and because these people care.
Yeah.
For those of us,
right.
for those of you on the audio format, we do record this live on Facebook, on YouTube. And so we have a comment section that is already full of people saying hello. So hello to all the people who are in. As soon as the doors opened, 11 people in the doors open. Well, we're actually getting a following. Cool. So
get out of here.
Crazy.
As we start this fun night off here, the thing that we saw at NNL East was round 2 had a couple of things on display that were brand new that had not been announced as of yet. You could watch Mr. Tester or any number of about 10 other people's videos to get what those things were. The big thing are a Hellcat wide body Charger based off of the 2021 Dodge Charger kit, and also a reissue of the 72 Chevelle, which they are going to box up in the SS Slasher box, which I believe was last seen in 1983, 84, somewhere in there. And the feedback that the Hellcat has gotten has been rather amusing, in the sense of I'm pulling my hair out because I can't stand people. And what this all comes down to is the fact that people are very upset that the fender flares are molded on the body.
Oh, come on.
Yes, that's right. The fender flares are molded up, but because, James, how am I supposed to make a narrow body Hellcat if the flares are molded onto the body already?
Listen, if you've got 700 plus horsepower, you need as much tire as you can get in the back of that car. So yeah, you need the wider tires.
Yeah, you just get the other Charger kit and then you swap the bodies.
Exactly. That's exactly what I said.
Now I'm buying 2 kits.
Exactly. Right.
You probably already, most people probably already have 500 kits to begin with. So what's another one? Really?
Really.
This is a twofold situation. One is obviously when Stellantis licensed the stuff to round 2, they didn't care how many model kits you personally had to buy in order to build your dream vehicle. They said, hey, we want to license an RT, a police car, and our Halo. I guess technically there's one level above the Hellcat as far as Chargers go. We want we want our Halo car, not our narrow body version of the Halo car that nobody ever bought. So there's a whole reason why the all-wheel drive Charger exists, because that was the Charger they sold the most of as far as the police car version went. So in talking to people about the fender flares are molded to the body thing, the contention that they have is that the fender flares are not molded to the body on the real car, and therefore you will not have the proper gap. And this is where the rant stems from, James. I want everybody to think about this real carefully. On a model car body, think about how very fine and thin a panel line is on your doors, in your trunk, or your hood if it's a curbside. Very tiny. I know Frank was showing these tools off, and I have the display version of them, the broaches, the little 0.1 mil broach that you can use as a scriber. It's what I use. That will fit in almost every panel line exactly, and if it's a little bit bigger than a 0.2 millimeter broach will fit. 0.1 millimeter, it's the itty bittiest little line ever. I want you to go next time you're off at the Cars and Coffee to look at a Hellcat and see that there is effectively no gap whatsoever. Yes, I understand that in real life the fender is bolted to the car, but there is no actual appreciable gap between the body and that fender flare. You couldn't stick a piece of paper in there. How exactly am I scaling that hundredth of a millimeter down to 1/25th scale? I'd love to know. Like
Right.
it molded to the body. That's what it would look like.
Yeah, no, I think they made the right call because I was actually I mean, I sort of knew this kit was coming. You know, I had some advanced knowledge, and I was a little bit concerned that I was like, oh, they're gonna. I thought they'd actually make the flare separate and just put it on the other charger body they had, and I was worried. I'm like, oh man, that usually when you have separate fender flares, the gap is huge. Like try to get them to fit really well. And I knew that would be a challenge to get them to fit nice and tight. And the fact that they're already molded to the body, I think that's the right way to go.
Yeah, you'd have to run a line of glue along the outer edge to make it look right.
Yeah,
It's like
Sounds like a nightmare if you had to add them separately.
Exactly. I've got 3 people here who can commiserate with me because we're all of an appropriate age that we've all seen. There was some monogram, but let's go with MPC because that was where the action was at, where everything became a cafe racer and an IMSA car in the 1980s, and all of that was just all of that was just random plastic parts added to a factory stock kit. And it was like YOLO, put some flares on your car. Like I can't think. Maybe you guys can help me out here. One single time I've met a put the flares on a car kit where that ended up looking good in the end. Like there's some Liberty Walk stuff out there where the flares are physically bolted to the fenders in the old school, like a rivets way. Okay,
Rivets,
fine.
right?
Yeah, it's riveted to the fender. That's in the like the new stuff like the Lamborghinis. That's a style statement rather than an actual functional part of the car. But like it's not going to fit. It's warped. Or you have to, in order to get it to fit, hog some stuff out. Some new Hasegawa kits are like that, like the race car RX-7, that race car, little first gen Civic. It's like, hey, you want to put the fenders on here? Here's your Dremel. Here's some instructions. Have fun at that. Don't cut too much off. Or the Sam pointing to stuff these guys you can't see, but there's the Liberty Walk stuff is behind me. It's like my R35s and the 86. Those are all, here's a paper template, saws all out the fender and put the over fenders on, molding them to the body.
Yep.
Yeah,
perfect. That's the perfect answer to that question. And if you have to buy 2 kits to build a narrow body charger, I don't know, go sell yourself on the corner for the $60 it's going to cost you. I can't with that. It's just,
yeah,
I can't.
What are the other gripes about the kit?
That's pretty much it. Pretty much the whole thing.
Okay.
Well, that and the wheels are too small. The wheels
are too small, of course.
The wheels are 17-inch. They can't possibly be 20-inch.
What are they saying about the Chevelle?
They should retool the front end for the clear headlights, which I agree with, but I also understand the financial constraints that you can't remold every single thing, or else you'd be thousands of dollars into everything you reissue.
But getting back to the charger for a moment, how cool is it that we're finally getting a Hellcat charger? Like just having an actual Hellcat engine in 1/25th scale in a kit that you can buy like at any place. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think for anybody who hasn't seen and for folks that are listening on the audio, we'll start posting the visuals on our Facebook page so that you guys can follow along when you're listening to these. But like, I don't think a lot of people appreciate the fact that there is an actual whole new engine in this. This isn't just like, oh, we threw some. I mean, I know it's a Hemi, so we threw some parts at it, but I mean, there's a whole engine compartment going on here that is new to this, and.
Yeah, there's a lot that's different about. I mean, the whole new body. There's a lot of the parts, the new wheels and tires. The engine's different. The exhaust is different. There's a bunch of different stuff on it.
Yeah,
super cool. I've been excited. I've known about this kit for about 3 years, and I was like, oh, I kept telling Steve Goldman from Round 2, when are we gonna get the Hellcat version? When do we get the Wildbat? What, super excited. This is one of my favorite cars. I really want to own a real one, and I've been dying to build at least a model kit so I can live vicariously through plastic. And and I've got some wild ideas for. I shared an image of rendering with James. I'm not going to give it away because I don't want to share the idea, but I've got a cool idea to build something unique with it. So yeah, cool.
With the engine or the entire kit?
Yeah, the entire kit. Something a little different. Something probably most people wouldn't think to do with it. I've got an idea to do something kind of strange with it. So
coming
I'm
soon.
already mentally yoinking the Hellcat out of the engine bay of that and putting it into a demon. It's like it's happening right now as I'm looking at these pictures.
I told Steve, I'm like, can we just get a parts pack Hellcat engine? And he's like, yeah, we'd love to do that. The challenge with that is the parts are tied to sprues that have parts of the Charger. So
they'd have to run the whole tree.
Yeah, they can't really like separate just the engine parts. So, but round two, hey, there's an idea for you. They at least they have the CAD. They could maybe do something. I don't know. Who knows? But
right.
It'd be a cool part.
And I've put it in Steve's ear many times that they need to do the Challenger too. So
absolutely,
that's out there.
I suppose the only question I have is whether or not when this kit hits, and Steve was telling everybody like very beginning of 2025, so it'll be a hot minute. The police car kit literally just dropped last like 3 weeks ago, so there's going to be a little bit of bacon time there so they can sell that. Is whether or not that kit is going to like cost me $1,200 a month and like have a 20% interest rate. Because I'm not sure you can sell a Hellcat without those parameters involved. No money down.
I think it's going to sell out
84 months.
Frank, you're a Mopar guy. Is this on your build list?
Absolutely. Need 7. Whenever they put out, so I need 4 of that, 6 of that. Yeah. Where am I getting the money for that? Do they sell them in cases? Who do I get cases from? And then I start looking behind me, and I'm like, where am I going to put that? The kids got to move out. I don't know what to tell you. I'm telling my wife, listen, there's finite room in this house, but I have an infinite appetite for this hobby. So the kids got to go. But she's 10. Listen, it's a tough world. You gotta hit the bricks sometimes. But definitely, I'm waiting on the police package, the pursuit package. I will definitely. I already have 2 of the RTs that came out. Definitely get a couple of these just for that. I'll probably buy more than I need for the Hellcat engine, and then because I'm as big a fan of bad ideas as Tim Kalankowitz says, I might put a slant 6 into the wide body Hellcat because there's not enough to hate here. You might as well throw some more gas.
They do make
fire.
392s in resin, so you can do 392s as well.
Sure.
Scat packs.
Sure. Why not? Get them all.
That's
you only live once.
We were talking about mod tops earlier. Maybe there's a mod top version.
There you go.
I have enough of the decals where I could probably. It was one of those things where I saw the decals and I'm like, I gotta get more of these decals because I would put a mod top on a Chevelle just for the hell of it. Just why not? Why not?
And for again, this is a thing that nobody else besides the YouTube crowd is going to see here. But in case you're wondering what we're talking about, this is Frank's display of chicken cutlets from the NNL East. The car down here in the bottom left is the 68, right? 68 Dart.
That's a 69 Dart.
69 Dart with the mod top on it. I can make it slightly bigger, but then it'll start to pixelate out here. But yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your Dart, Frank.
Okay, that kit's based on the Revell 1969 Dodge Dart GTS. What I wanted to do when I set off to make it a floral top from the get-go. On Dodges, they're referred to as floral tops, and on Plymouths, they're referred to as mod tops. So
I did not know that.
the green pattern that you see there was only available on Dodges, and for that matter, they were only available on Darts, Coronets, and Super Bs. So, and even worse, to get the floral top on a Dodge, you could either get it in F6 spring green, which was a 1969 color, white or black, and that was it. Mod tops themselves could only come on a Plymouth, and they had the blue pattern and the yellow pattern. The yellow pattern was most commonly seen on Barracudas, with the blue pattern being most commonly seen on sports satellites, and that was the only, you could only get it on a sports satellite. And the Barracuda, you could actually get a 70 Barracuda with a floral, with a mod top. I don't believe that actually
69. The 69 Barracuda Coupe, you could get the mod top on as well.
Yeah, it had to be a notch back and not the fastback.
Fastback, right?
Yeah. So
Nice.
on the Plymouths, you could also get the mod top, well, the mod pattern as inlays within the interior on the seats, where you couldn't get that on the Dodge cars. There is actually, I think it goes to Carlisle every year, a 1969 A12 Super B with a 446 pack, bench seat, column shift with a green floral top, and in this same color of F6 spring green. And
very cool.
I mean, that is one of one probably. This car itself, there's no record of the options that are on this 69 Dodge Dart. That's a 69 Dodge Dart GTS with a GTS stripe in F6 green with a white interior with a floral top, 383 4-barrel, automatic transmission with red lines, Steelies, and Baby Moon hubcaps. There's no record of any of them ever being produced in that configuration, but it was possible. But nobody did it. Usually, if you see an F6 green with a floral top, they have a black interior and they're like a 340 equipped small block car. Yeah. Of the 383s that had that were in the GTS package of 69 Darts, most of them were 4-speeds and very few of them were automatics. So this would be a unique car if it actually existed. And at the end of the show, I actually gave it to a friend of mine I built this car in 2021, and I first put it on a table at an IPMS show in Long Island in spring of 2022. And my friend Darryl Romaine saw it, and he goes, "I love that car. I love that." And every time he's seen it since, he goes, "Oh, I love that car. I love that car." So finally, it's been to enough shows. It's been out there enough. He goes, "Man, he was sitting over by the model car hospital." So he's telling me how much. I said, "All right, Darryl." I walked over, I grabbed it, and I gave it to him. He goes, "Are you serious?" I go, "Yeah, take it. It's going to collect all those other cars are collecting dust right in here right now." So
yeah,
that's a fate worse than death. So
that's a lot of fun to give away a model that somebody loves that you built, and it's gratifying to give it away to them and just watch their face. Yeah, I give away a lot.
It's my favorite part of the hobby. It's the favorite part of the hobby for me. After they're built, they're not mine anymore. They should belong to somebody else that's going to appreciate them more than I will, because I'll forget them. I'll forget building them. I'll forget what went into them. Like, I have to keep notes. I refer back to the notes from when I built them, and I write detailed description on my Facebook pages, just so I remember, what colors, where I got the paint from, that kind of stuff. So
I have 4 cases here and 300 models to build. Something's got to give.
Yeah, one way or another. Yeah, right. It's
that's great.
That's actually my wife's mantra. When are you getting rid of that stuff?
That's
You're getting rid of it, Fran. I have bad news for you, Fran. You're getting rid of it. I'm not going to be the one who has to get rid of it.
Yeah, we're all waiting for James's estate sale.
So I'm
Yes,
at
I
the codicils in my will that who gets what out of the basement here.
I'm noticing we're 21 minutes into the show and we haven't introduced our guest tonight.
Did we not? I thought I did at the very beginning. Did I not? Was I not here?
Frank from Frank's Mall. Did we? Did I
I think
miss
we
it?
did. I think we did.
We did.
All right. Well, I was totally not paying attention, obviously.
Who are you?
It doesn't hurt at all, Sean. There's no pain. Believe me, I'm not offended.
So we're gonna drag him all over the interview coals here. Yeah, I was kind of disappointed that you gave it away because you put up a video about it. For anybody who hasn't seen it, go to Frank's channel. He did a little build review of that with way better pictures than my crappy, over 3 levels of internet photos going to show for you. Because I was sitting there thinking that, and Corvette people have taken this and really run with it in the most douchey way possible. You needed one of those signs that broke down there were this many 69 darts, and then there were this many in this color, and then there were this many with this engine, and this many with this transmission. One of one, I know what I have.
And this one would have been zero real ones. That was the only. I don't think anybody built a model in that configuration with those options either. So Daryl plus, I mean, if it had been built by a competent model, Daryl might actually have something of value on his hands. But unfortunately, he got stuck with my crap.
What was your inspiration to build that car?
I saw the Carlisle 69 A12 Super B, and then I went down the click hole of mod tops, floral tops, and then there's an entire, it's called Moore's Mopars. It's an entire website devoted to the floral top, and they have a registry of cars that still exist. So I'm looking and I'm like, you could get a dart with a floral top. Oh, I got to do that because nobody's doing that. Right. So I thought to myself, all right, let me see if I can find the decal. I was worried I was going to have to draw it myself and then print it on decal paper. But SMP Decals has all 3 schemes. There's a car when there's a certain color of Chrysler. It's an actual Chrysler. I was watching an episode of Rare Collectible Cars. There's a certain model of Chrysler where they ran out of material for the vinyl top. So they actually had floral top vinyl dyed a dark brown color, and as it started to fade, it almost looked like paisley. So there's even more rare Chryslers that have this. If I can ever find the link to the episode, I'll put it on my channel. But like, you go down these rabbit holes, and you're like, oh, I got to do this now. I got to do that, and then I've seen examples of cars that shouldn't have had it. But then, depending on where you do your reading, you could get anything you want at the dealer level. If they could get a hold of a roll of the material, and the material itself is gone, it's sold out. There is some reproduction stuff out there, but the material itself is long gone. But back then, if you wanted it on your Monaco, you probably could have done it. Right. Money talks, especially at the dealer. Yeah, we'll throw that on there for you. Like, it was abysmal. The sales on the real cars, because it was the first time that Chrysler Corporation directly marketed females. They targeted females in the marketing for the mod tops and the floral tops. So it was the first time the sales were awful. There really weren't a lot of them made. And people would, like, after 6 months of owning them, they were taking them back. Could you take this off and just put a white vinyl top on it? It's a shame, but that's the way the rarer the car is. Yeah.
Same thing with Panther Pink and Moulin Rouge.
Yeah. Superbirds. They couldn't give Superbirds away. They were hard to sell, but now they're $1 million car.
Right.
You never know.
We could talk Mopar all night and bore James to death.
Yeah,
I love Mopars. I haven't built any of them.
You've got 4 Mopar guys here, so yeah, we could bore everybody to tears
Yeah.
with Mopar stories.
All right, so for the folks in the YouTube comments, as we go into an actual like interview with Frank here, if you have any questions you want to know about Frank, serious questions only, right? Toss them in the chat. We'll try to read them out at the end if they're not just Kolinkowitz giving you a hard time. So Frank, give us the Cliff Note backstory there. When did you get into building? How did you get into building? As a family member? Were you a child? Was it something you picked up later as an adult?
When I was 7 years old, my mother took my sister ice skating, and my father said, "Come with me." We walked up to Fresh Pond. I grew up in New York City, in Queens, in a neighborhood called Ridgewood, and there was one hobby shop. One half of it was a hardware store. The other half was a hobby shop. So my father walks me up there. The hobby shop itself specialized in trains, and they were actually, if you know anything about model trains, they were one of the only Markland dealerships in the country at the time. And the largest until I guess they went under. But he brought me up there and he bought me Monogram's ME 109 and a tube of glue. And he brought me home. He showed me, he cut the parts off. He showed me how to build it. He goes, "All right, put the wings together. I'll be right back." So in the kitchen, I hear he's popping a can of beer. I used so much glue to put the wings together. That thing is probably somewhere in the dump in Staten Island, and it's still not dry. It's probably still soft from all the glue that I used. But I was hooked. So then later on, I wound up, because I went to a parochial school, I wound up becoming an altar boy. And the gig was, when you were an altar boy, you got a tip for doing a funeral. So at the time, you got $1 for doing a funeral, but you could get $5 to up to $20 if it was like, a hotsy-totsy wedding. So I would get my tips from the weddings and funerals and then go up to Nagging and buy my models. So over time, I started building and building. It became a passion of mine. I wasn't like, I couldn't be bothered with sports. Like I played sports with my friends. Yeah, true. Lifelong vocation, if you would. So time goes on, and you know how everybody talks about you have that period where you discover girls and you leave the hobby. That never happened to me because I'm a fat nerd whose name is Francis. So I discovered girls, and girls just, get out of here. So I stuck with modeling for all through high school and in through college and stuff like that. I never really got good at it. There was never the social aspect. I was never part of a club, or most of the kids in my neighborhood, they knew I built. So if they got a model for Christmas, I would build it for them, and then, we'd blow them up. We were bad kids. We were awful. So later on, and as an adult, I'm building models. I go to work for the phone company. I work for the regional phone company in the area where I live, which shall remain nameless, although it's not that hard to figure out. And I get introduced to this young lady from Brooklyn whose name is Fran. We start to date. So she goes, like, "What do you do? What are your hobbies? Do you hunt?" No. Are you a Met fan, Yankee fan? No. "What do you do?" "I build models." She goes, "Let me see." So I take it. We go over my house. I get a 1967 GTX out of my stash because I had like 30 of them. And I hand it to her. I said, "Take it home and build it." So I drive her home, kiss her goodnight, get in my car. I get home, my answering machine's blinking. "Call me as soon as you get home." Oh, something happened. I'm all nervous. So I call her up. I go, "What happened?" She goes, "There's a rear view mirror super glued to my forehead. I'm never doing this again." Boom, she hangs up on me. Thank God we were already engaged already. Because I'm like, I'm not going to find another one. All right, so you don't you don't have to build models anymore. So we wound up getting married, and when we get married, we moved into a small 3-room apartment. So I had a stash. Every birthday present, every Christmas present from all my parents, my aunts, my uncles was always a model. So I had a stash even as a young adult. I get married, I move into this small apartment. I can't bring them all with me. And my father's like, you got to come get these things out of here. So, all right, Dad, I got no place to put them. So one day in the mail, I'm living in Brooklyn. One day in the mail, I get a letter. There's an orphanage in Rockaway down by the beach. It's from the orphanage. I open up Dear Mr. Steffens, thank you very much for your donation of 150 model kits.
What?
Yeah, my father donated my entire stash to an orphanage, which, if you think about it, is evil genius because I can't complain. It's an orphanage. Like, what kind of monster would complain about that? What kind of like it was like I just looked at him. I go, that is diabolical, Gerard. I told you to get rid of them. So years go on, and it would turn out like I've always been a car modeler, but I always do forays into planes, armor. My wife jokes around and she says my real hobby is collecting hobbies. So I've done radio control cars, radio control planes. I've done model cars, planes, tanks, dioramas, figures, science fiction. The only thing I've never done is a boat. I've never done a ship. So, and it's weird. Even though my passion is model cars, I'm actually, if I'm good at anything, I'm actually better at building planes than I am at building cars. But I love cars so much that I keep sticking my head into that buzzsaw of building a model car and trying to get anywhere with it. So that's my sense. Go ahead.
As a good attorney, I already know the answer to the question because you've mentioned it before, but you just went over. You do build outside our genre of cars, or I know you do because Frank and I are both part of a very cranky group of modelers on Facebook called the Scale Model Critique Group. So yes. I've that is a more IPMS leaning Facebook group than it is car leaning. Me and Frank are sort of redheaded stepchilds, but I'd say there's probably about 15 of us or so car guys on there that are regulars anyway. So, I guess the question there would be, as far as your preference in cars, is it Mopar? Is that, I mean, I know this year's the year of Mustang for you personally because you're flown with the anniversary there, but is it primarily Mopar or is it just whatever?
Primarily Mopar with a close second of Ford, because in my real cars have been Mopars and Fords. So from the get-go, my first car was a 1990 Dodge Shadow, which my parents sold to me for $1,500 in 1996. I went to Queens College of like Jerry Seinfeld fame. So from my house to Queens College was 2.5 hours by bus one way. I once walked home. It took 2 hours. They sold me their car. They had a Subaru that they gave to my cousin for free. When they started doing the 23andMe, like the genetics, the DNA stuff, I did it just to make sure. Are these really my parents? Did they find me on the side of the turnpike or something? Like, what is wrong? My mother was in labor with me for 36 hours. I get her like beef with me. Not that I had anything to do with it, but like my dad, like, wow, he really loved Mary because wow. So my first car was a 1990 Dodge Shadow. My first new car was a 1998 Plymouth Neon, not the Dodge Neon. And the difference between the Plymouth Neon and the Dodge Neon was you just got beat up for owning a Plymouth Neon. Same cars, same colors. I put 60,000 miles onto it, and then we moved out to Long Island. I would never put mileage on a car because he lived in the city. You rarely used it for the most part. And I was young at the time, so I'd leave it at the bar and walk home. So we moved out to Long Island, and I bought a Ford Escape, which at the time when they first came out, I think I bought one in 2004. It was a nice little truck. I enjoyed it. So, but then I alternated back and forth between Mopars and Fords for my entire car ownership career. And now my past 4 cars have been Fords. My favorite one of all, I had a 1996 Bronco XLT that I bought for $1,000 in 2013
Wow.
with 176,000 miles on it. Rust. It was always a New York car. It was used as a snowplow, but it had a 351 with the dual shock front suspension. It was a white, like OJ Bronco, but a 96 instead of a 93. The interior was in great shape. And I'm like, I'm going to restore this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I was using it to I found out you could put 15 radio control planes in a Ford Bronco, in a full-size Ford Bronco. It's good to know. So I paid this guy. The one thing I'll never do on a car, I'll never do brakes, and I'll never do fuel. I'll do anything else, but brakes, I paid a guy. I bought every single brake component for a Ford Bronco that existed for that, everything. I give the guy the parts. I say, here you go. And he gives me his labor quote. The one brake line he did not replace. And he says to me, I couldn't get the bracket. It was where the rubber line that goes through the fender to the passenger side front. He goes, I couldn't get it out. So sure enough, it dry rotted. And in New York, we have the red light cameras. So I'm coming up to an intersection. There's a girl already in the intersection. So the light turns yellow. So that's it. We got to stop. Otherwise I get the red light camera ticket, and whatever happens, I guess I go to prison. So I get the car down. I get it down to 3 miles an hour, and I touch her with my front bumper touches her back bumper, and the pedal goes to the floor. So I pull over. I almost hit her again pulling over. So I get into the accident with the car. My wife's 8 months pregnant at the time. So I had the car towed back to the house, and I told her what happened. And in the calmest voice that pregnant, that calm voice that pregnant women have. Get rid of it. Okay, so I start calling up people. I don't want to junk the thing, but it's got no brakes. It's got it. So the next thing you know, I'll call up my friend. He collects Broncos. He buys them, flips them, whatever. I go, come take this. I'll pay for it to be towed to your house. He goes, I can't. I had to junk the thing. Do you have any idea what a 96 Bronco goes for these days?
Oh, yeah.
This is the story of my life. This is literally what this is like. That's what my life is like. And that's why I feel appreciative to be stuck down in a dungeon that looks like down here. Look, you see the ceiling. Like you can almost imagine that there's like a well, like 10 feet from where I'm sitting, with a senator's daughter named Catherine in it. And my little white dog is walking over the engine, but it rubs the Tamiya lacquer on its skin, or it gets the hose again. That's my Santella woe.
Carl Kandetsky in the comments says that Frank reminds me of Rodney Dangerfield. So.
Thank you. I've been told I'm a combination of Lewis Black, because I always seem angry, but I'm not. It's an act. I'm actually really, really chipper.
James,
okay.
There was a really good comment. Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
It was a really good comment and question for Frank. We could go back a couple of years to when you first started, what advice would you give a new builder?
Get involved with other modelers. Find them and make friends with them, because they become kindred spirits. And a support system within the hobby is probably the most important thing, and adds so much to the hobby that if you're new in the hobby, find other modelers, talk to them, hang out with them, ask them questions, socialize, and get yourself to a point where you can be that mentor to other modelers. That would be that, and stock up on charger kits that are coming out from AMT. Was 35 years from now, let me tell you something, guys are going to be looking for them.
Sean, what would your advice to the new modelers be?
Don't quit just because the first thing you build doesn't come out that well. Or I think a lot of people, they give up too quick. I probably built 30 or 40 models before I built one that was even halfway decent. I mean, I don't have any of the original ones I built, but they're, when I was a kid, they're all trash. But it's repetition. You have to kind of just stick with it. You have to build through the mistakes. Don't quit and just throw it in a box and like, even though I had stuff that didn't turn out great, I finished it and moved on to the next one. Because every time you build something, you'll learn, you'll get better, and it just, like with anything, it takes a while to sort of learn the techniques and make all the mistakes and do everything wrong before you figure out how to do it right. And so yeah,
right.
Just gonna stick with it.
James, what's your advice?
I think it echoes with the social aspect for everybody. Probably a lot of people in the chat, but for everybody in the call right now, we grew up in an era where this didn't exist as far as the interactivity. I mean, you would have had the very early days of America Online, the very early days of what was Prodigy back in the day. Bulletin board service kind of things, but no pictures and things of that nature. And there may have been more shows back then, but as far as the clubs went, they didn't seem to be as prevalent, at least to me. Like I grew up in an area where there were probably 3 or 4 shows, but I couldn't have told you where the clubs were, when they met, anything like that.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's the double-edged sword of social media being what it is. A bunch of people are just complete and total dillholes about it, but it connects you with a whole bunch of people that you don't even realize that you knew. I was talking to the 2 Chris's, Chris Ortlieb and CD Scale Modelers Chris, about coming on the show later, and they realized after running into each other at NNL that they grew up in the same neighborhood but never knew each other until 3 years ago. So there's 2 modelers who were within a mile, 2 miles of each other, who met each other through YouTube basically, and like, oh hey, we were around the whole time. Like Frank said, I there were a couple of people in my neighborhood that might have had a model kit every now and then, but I was the only one that built models that I know of. And the other thing is really what Sean was saying. When you look at the stuff that you're seeing on YouTube, there's a lot of experience that's going into what you're seeing. You can't get frustrated if the first thing didn't turn out like what you saw online, because what you saw online is somebody who's been doing this for the last 15 to 40 plus years. And it took them that 15 to 40 plus years to get where they're at. You're not waking up tomorrow, opening up a model kit and building Randy Dare's Corvette out of it. It's just not, that's just not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Frank did a whole tutorial on airbrushing that the third part was infinitely long, and I'm still pretty sure it's playing in the background in my car, but he had a very, very succinct second part of that, which was just getting paint to come out of your airbrush, which is something that like you don't even think of, because even for somebody like me who doesn't use an airbrush as much as I should, like I don't know how to get paint out of my airbrush. I wouldn't even, if I told somebody to buy an airbrush, getting paint out of it isn't even something I would think about. How you do that. I know because I know how to do it.
Yeah,
so
right.
So many people get people get so frustrated with the airbrush because they buy they don't buy something. The easiest airbrush to use should be the first one that you buy. You shouldn't buy, like, it's not like the old days where, you know, I want everybody to suffer the way I suffered because I suffered and I made it out okay. You didn't make it out okay. If you want other people to suffer the way that you did, you are far from okay. So that's kind of why I made that video series, was because, like, airbrushing can change the hobby for people, and it can get them away from things like where you don't really craze bodies once you're airbrushing. It's very rare that it happens,
Right.
and it's usually something that you did wrong. So that's what I was trying to. I mean, I understand it was needlessly long, James.
Let's just put it this way: if it took as long to clean an airbrush in real life as it did in that video, I wouldn't airbrush anymore.
5 minutes.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
5 minutes.
All right, James. Since you asked the question here, what are we telling young James?
Young James, start learning to pre-assemble with white glue. Figure out what doesn't fit before you paint anything. God, I would have saved so many years learning to do that first. And also detail every part as if it's a model within itself, and then assemble every perfect part to a perfect model.
That's the
certainly
key.
I say it certainly is a thing about treating each sub-assembly as its own model to a certain extent, so that you're not like, some people are like, well, I don't do interiors. Well, focus on it then. If you can do the other things, then what you're focusing on now is this. It is a constant incremental improvement. I mean, there are things that will happen to you if you're a new modeler where you will have that jump of like, oh, hey, look, there's no glue on anything. Hey, and there will never be glue on anything ever again, except for that time that you forgot the super glues on your thumb and now it's in the middle of your windshield. But it's, that's that, oh, how did I make that mistake at this point in the game, as it were?
Yeah.
But I just made that mistake just recently.
I was looking through things that I'm taking to Wisconsin for Nats for our display table, and I was like, well, I can't take that because it's a giant super glue thumbprint right in the side window of that BMW, so that won't be going. But Steve Courtney said, mentioned here, I'll tell you everything I know, just ask. That's another thing that I would say to a new modeler is, especially if you're in a Facebook group or watching somebody on YouTube, to sit in the room for half a second and see who the people are that are commenting, because there's a lot of people that are talking out their hind end, for lack of a better way to put it. And some of the best modelers on the face of the planet, your Mark Joneses, your Randy Dares, your Marco Cruzes, people like that, are some of the nicest people that you will ever run into. They'll tell you every single thing they do. Yep. There's no hiding. That was a whole shtick of like 80s and 90s modeling, right? People hiding what they were doing, because you didn't want to give away their secrets. But find the people that are willing to share and that are actually genuine people, and follow what they do. Otherwise, you're gonna paint with Krylon 2-in-1, and we don't want to go down that road again.
If you have a question and you ask a question in a, like, say, a Facebook modeling group, and you get 15 of the same answers, then what you should do is, like, or if you get I never had a problem, like, I used this paint and it crazed my body. What's wrong? What happened? Well, I never had a problem. Click on that person's profile and see if they ever posted anything. Probably 80% of the time, they've never posted a picture of their models. If they have posted a picture of their models, it's a flip phone camera picture of a Polaroid of a model in a china closet across a dark room. Or worse, you're looking at a really clear model of something that looks like it was finger painted during a withering artillery barrage. So you got to learn to take that advice with a grain of salt. if you see and don't be afraid to directly message somebody who builds nice work. Some of the nicest people that you'll meet in the modeling world are the most talented ones. And I did a video about my experiences at NNL East, and I can't see the comments, but is Tim in the comments?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
he said your Bronco was worth $600.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, I was just about to talk about you being my modeling hero, but you know what? Back to you, James Duff. No, but I walked up to Tim at NNL East last week, and I've been a fan of his work since I saw Coral Aura in Scale Auto. And I introduced myself to him, and here I am. Like, to me, this hobby is what golf is to other people. Like, as passionate as they are about it, or as passionate as they may be about a sports team or a pastime or playing in a sport. That's what this is for me. So for me to walk up to a Tim Kalankowicz, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but to walk up to him and introduce myself is literally like me walking up to being an avid golfer and walking up to Tiger Woods and having the experience where Tiger goes, "Let me see you swing," because that's what Tim did. He goes, "Let me see your models," and I showed him, and I'm scared to death on my way over there. And he looks at it, he goes, "No, you got some skills." Now hearing that was like it totally wiped out the fact that my father donated my stash to an orphanage for a little while. It creeps back in after a while, but that was a tremendous lift. That was wind in my sails to get me through whatever I'm working on now. That if your heroes, if they're accessible, and they are in this hobby, especially within model cars,
yeah,
and they're willing to help, that's a big plus. And it's something that I didn't have growing up, because there might have been clubs around, but my parents were like, "Here, just build the model. Just shut up. That's why we gave it to you." Pacifier. You know, if you remember the classified ads that used to be in the back of Fine Scale Modeler, there was a hobby shop in Middle Island, New York. So I looked at all the New York hobby shops, and Men at Arms Hobby. And I was like, "Mom, Dad, where's Middle Island?" "It's all the way out in Suffolk County. We're never going out that far." It's 5 minutes from where I live now. And I moved out here because they moved out here. So, we grew up in a like a desert of the social aspect, but it persevered. So this is something that you have to take advantage of. I mean, some of the best modelers in the world are in the comments of this live stream that's going on. I don't know if is Sean that way?
Other way.
The other way. Okay.
Yeah.
That's one of the best modelers around. Is James Tester above me?
He is above you.
That's one of the best ones around.
Thank you.
That's one of the best kit collectors around.
That's right. We all have our strengths and weaknesses.
So if you ever want to ask but that's a tremendous resource.
It is,
because I've actually asked James, does this come in this kit? Because I see it on eBay. Is this in this kit? And he's like, "Nope, it's not in that issue." Oh, okay, good. I mean, I bought the kit anyway because I have a problem, but I bought it.
After that rousing endorsement of Tim, he says your Bronco's now worth $900.
Thanks. Unfortunately, I got $250 because I junked it.
Frank is being entirely too positive at the moment, so let's have a quick one here. Worst kit you've ever built?
Me?
Yes.
The worst kit I ever built was the Airfix 1/144th scale Boeing 737-200.
Well, you could have stopped at Airfix. You didn't need the rest of that.
Yeah, it's true. The worst car model I ever built was the first car model I ever built. It was a reissue of the MPC LA Dart. It didn't have any of the LA Dart decals in it. My cousin had gotten it for his birthday and didn't want it. So my aunt gave it to me, and I tried putting it together, and to this day, it haunts me. I think I have the reissue. Yeah, the reissues back there.
With the Hemi Hunter version, I think it was in red, wasn't it?
Yes. The Hemi Hunter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still have nightmares of that kit. And I'm dreading. It's still sealed. I won't even look at it because I'm scared of it.
All right,
the
so
best-
Sean, your worst kit. This is a good one. Sean, what's your worst kit?
Oh man, worst kit. I don't know. Somebody else go and let me think about it. Maybe I have to think about it.
Mine
James,
was Mysterian. The Mysterian
Oh,
show
yeah.
rod. See, so much chrome to scrape, and the whole frame didn't want to fit together. It was bad. It was really bad for me.
I once saw. Go ahead.
I'm going here. So people will always point out to me, like, you go into the Hot Rod series of kits by Revell. You must hate Hot Rod. No, I was actually subscribed to the magazine. The model kits just sucked. There was a 3-pack that had the 55, 56, and 57 Chevys in it. Now I realize those are 3 separate model kits, but universally, becoming in one package, I consider that to be the worst model kit I've ever built, because
That's like a war crime.
Everything opened, nothing closed, and to this day, I'm pretty sure there are still parts to the hinges of every door and trunk on those kits, littering the floor of a basement in a townhouse up in the southwest side of Pittsburgh. Because once you open those doors, you only open them once, because you close them, you open them a second time, bang, off they would go, because that plastic was so fragile in the 1980s, and there was so much ill-fitting. The 56 Nomad was shown by Atlantis at NNL East on the table there, and somebody made the comment of the pictures that I posted of like, oh, I'm glad to see that come out. It came out. It looks like they fixed it. I'm like, there is a panel gap that you could shove a cat through between the front door and the front fender, and that hood clearly doesn't fit. I mean, it's a test shot. Maybe we'll refine it or not. It just sucks. Let's just deal with it. And I was like, no, like I've told people before, those actually turned me off to Revell for years. Because as a kid, as a kid or a new modeler, because we're on that topic tonight, if you don't appreciate the history, the lineage, which is again why I'm the fountain of knowledge that I am, because I will not get put in that position again. If you don't, the kit comes out, it's new. But it's not,
right?
The 50 those 50 Tri-5s were not new. They were 30 years old in the 1980s, and so what was I like? I have a Fairlane Thunderbolt now, but I didn't buy one of this at the time because that was a 1960s kit, so it was that old. I didn't buy I bought the Lincoln Pro Street, but I didn't buy any of those other like Pro Street drag cars that were issued in that Hot Rod series because again, they were old. They weren't. Right. Some of those were brand new. That Thunderbolt was brand new tooling. But I wasn't buying those because Frank showing the Pontiac J2000 hot rod kit there. But it was not until Revell made the Motor Trend kits, the 90, 91, 92, I think it is, Thunderbird, Cougar, which I know Frank will show us here in a second because he bought those at least, and the Grand Prix. Those were really nice kits, and they were brand new. They were dated the years they were made, so I sort of came back in with that. But I was scarred for life from those Tri-5s.
Yeah.
All right, back to you, Sean. What's the worst kit?
The ones that came to mind for me after I thought about it was the old Revell multi-piece body kits. Like I think there was a Pontiac show car, and I can't remember the name of it. It's like a light blue color, and they also did the Lincoln Futura, and very difficult. And the
Club de Mura.
Yeah, the Club de Mura. Yep. I think the Cadillac is probably the worst. Like it's just very difficult to get things to align properly. And I mean, to be fair, those kits were probably designed back in the 1950s. With 50s technology, and they're just not up to the standards that we enjoy today. But as a kid trying to put them together, yeah, challenging.
That was a good question.
So Frank, the inverse opposite of that is favorite kit and or like series range of kits, because now at this point, like every kit has 3 variants to it. The
I
60, I realize the 70 Charger is like a different tooling than the 68 and 69, but you could argue all 3 of those are the same, thing. So
Yeah, mine is the 68 Charger from Revell. I love that kit. I built 3 of them. 2 of them were at NNL East. I still have those. One of them I actually gave to a family. There's a YouTuber named Dylan McCool. He did a barnfly restoration, getting a car started of a 68 Charger. And I was so like, because it was like a down option 318 2-barrel automatic, but it was beautiful UU1 blue, which is almost like a mix between B3 and B5 blue, like in between the two of them, just gorgeous. The black vinyl top, blue interior. And in 68, the panels inside the seats had the black fabric. It was just a really sharp look. I built a model of it. I sent the pictures to Dylan, and he goes, "You want to sell it?" I go, "No." I go, "But where do you want me to?" So I sent it to the family whose car it was, and he handed off the actual car once he got it started to a father and daughter team. And I had so much fun building those 3 kits. It took me most of last year to build the 3 of them, but it's some of my favorite work. I love that kit. Everything about that kit is fun. And if you ever want this, if James Duff doesn't cover the history of a kit, always check out the Muscle Car Modeler. He does model car histories, some of the best work, and that is, I write down everything the man says. Number one, because he's right, he's accurate, and he's not gonna steer you wrong. He'll tell you if there's inaccuracies, what needs to be fixed. But that 68 Charger, love that kit. Still have a bunch of them. I did a bunch with vinyl tops, and now I have to build a bunch of them with just regular tops. So I have a bunch of them. Love them.
So do you, I guess for inspiration of like what you're building, are you an assembly line builder? Like you just decide, okay, I'm going for this year, it's the Mustangs. So did you just like at the beginning of the year pick out the Mustangs you're going to build, and these are what I'm going to do, and it's just bam, 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 bam in a row after that, or is it just sort of, again, it's not you're a planner. Oh, I don't like it.
I had this year's builds picked out and in the order that they're going to be done in, not necessarily the colors that they're going to be painted, but I had creating the channel in mind. So prior to February, I had a YouTube channel, but it was mainly me flying radio control planes with my idiot friends. And then I started doing long form videos of models. First, I put out a bunch of shorts of the models that I still had on hand. And the production schedule that I worked out was going to be, I'm going to build Mustangs because it's the 60th anniversary of the Mustang. And then I'm going to chronicle my featured builds of the past. If I still I have pictures of basically everything I've built since 2016, but I might not necessarily have the model on hand. So, but my inspiration for a build is generally, I would like to build kind of close to an actual car that exists, or a car that could have existed but might not have. But I also have a soft spot in my heart for down option vehicles, because when I buy a real car, I don't buy the top of the line model. I like to buy just one step up from base, air conditioning, power windows. The Shadow had none of those things. I blew the engine on that thing at 70,000. My father never changed. That's another thing. My father never changed the oil on a car, ever, once, not once. he blew up a 67 GTO and abandoned it. And he just abandoned the car. Years later, I said to him, Dad, how could you do that? He goes, this car's worth a dime a dozen. I paid $100 for that car. So Tim's actually right. My Bronco really isn't worth that much money. It's probably worth a lot more money than I thought it was. My father's dumping 67 GTOs on Otto Road in Glendale. But my inspiration for the builds tend to be like cars that I would have seen. So the neighborhood that I lived in, growing up in the 70s and 80s, there were a lot of low optioned cars from the 60s and early 70s riding around my neighborhood, and I try to build from my memory of those cars. But I do have a production schedule for the Mustangs that I'm building now. Like right now, I'm doing the Mach 1 Mustang from Revell. The next one after that is going to be the Tamiya GT4 Mustang. I don't think I'm going to go as crazy with it as, was it A4 who did the GT4 build?
Moki Paint.
Moki Paint.
Yeah, he's my hero.
That's how I watch that channel like this. I get Michael Moore face. Watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is an impressive channel.
I learned a lot from watching that video. Actually, I'm like, wow, I had never even considered doing some of those things. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Because to me, a kid it's really good the way it is. I'm not touching Tamiya's son's masterpiece. Who am I? But that's I'm looking forward.
I will say that because Frank is also now working a portion to his schedule of builds there. The guys over at the Scale Model Car Podcast have announced their second annual Porsche build, and Frank has jumped into that with both feet into, as I told BG, who's also building the same kit, I laugh at you and Tamiya tape, because they're building they're both building that 1988 911, the snap tight kit, which has all of that black that has to be masked. I said, because Brian's like, oh, that'll be an easy one. I'm like, Brian, did you take the instructions out and look and see how much black trim there really is on that car? Because you're going to use like all the tape, half the saran wrap, and like all of the painter's tape within like 300 miles of you on that thing. Because everything is molded to the body, and every part of it, other than the doors and the roof, are black.
I built a digital camouflage 1955 shoebox Chevy drag racing car. Masking don't scare me. That was one of the in the middle of it. I'm, what the hell were you thinking? Digital camouflage. First, they did it in 1/72nd scale on an F-18, and that was bad enough. And then, like 6 months later, I'm building one. Remember the 55 Pro Sportsman that Revell had out? I built that as a fictitious digital camouflage drag racing car, as if it had been sponsored by the Marine Corps, because I was building it for a friend of mine who was in the Marines. And then I'm in the middle of it. And this is after like 3 weeks of trying to draw up the decals and all. What the hell was I thinking? But masking, I would rather mask and paint black than do bare metal foil. I like the people at bare metal foil. I'm just not a fan of the or I'm not a fan of using the product. There's nothing wrong with the product. The product is the product, and it's not something that I enjoy. So I would rather mask and paint something like that. But there is a lot of black on that body in it. I had said in my video, because as soon as I decided to do it, I picked 3 colors, 3 Porsche colors, and I ordered them Porsche colors, and I ordered them from Splash Paints. And I go, I know exactly what's going to happen. I'm going to get these paints, and I'm going to order 2 more of these kits. I already ordered the kits, so now I'm building 3. Yeah.
They make other 911s, Frank. I'm just saying.
I have other Porsche. I have other Porsche shizzes.
Yes, that's a good one.
but I wanted something quick. And then I realized afterwards, I'm like, this is a lot of masking. But I'm deep. I rolled deep into Tamiya washi tape a long time ago. I saw it at a good price on Amazon, and I went long. I went long on investing in Tamiya tape. So I'm good. I should be all right.
I'll say just understand that I will be giving you and Brian a ration, deservedly so, for you both pick Snapside kids.
I was only
it's like those
Mustangs
Revell.
this year.
It's like all those Revell kits that they keep putting out. They're glue now. No, they're not. And that one's still a snap lock, which was to me is snap tight nom de guerre back in the day. So you've mentioned a few people. Who would you say are your influences in the hobby? You don't have to kiss Tim's ass again. We've already done that enough. Who else?
Tim Boyd. Doug White. And how dare you say I was kissing Tim's ass? I said that first. I said that first. Bob Jernigan, because I am a fan of factory stock. Steve Guthmella. He does really nice factory stock work. I gotta be honest with you. Plasmo, Dave Damek, because I build planes and I build armor as well. And I was literally at a plateau of building through the 90s and into the early 2000s where I wasn't getting any better. Wasn't necessarily getting worse, but I was stuck at this level like of mediocrity. Like I consider myself now just around middle of the road in terms of talent or ability, mediocre. But I was stuck here for 15 to 20 years, and I watched his videos going back, I think, to 2016 or 2017. And I saw what he was doing with planes, and it was stuff that I was always scared to death to do. Like I never used Future. I always thought that was a bugaboo, and like it's not real. But then I saw that there were other products out there so that I could apply a wash, because everything before I decided, like I started watching YouTube videos, was Model Master. Every paint that I used was Model Master, thinned with that red tin can that I love to take a huff out of every now and then. I do. I have two cans.
Memories.
Yeah, I just open up childhood, orphanages, and buying cars. Take a swig. But David Damek was a big influence of mine. And then probably not to kiss their tails as well, but Matt McDougall and Will Patterson from the group that we're from on Facebook, James and I. A lot of the philosophical side of modeling and fighting back against the gatekeeping aspects of the hobby, which I think is very damaging. I think it's something that gives us a bad name. And those were two guys who were willing to stand up to an apparatus that was keeping people from really engaging in the hobby as much as they possibly could. And those are two guys who I have a boatload of respect for. And I owe them a lot, because so much, and all of the people that I mentioned, I owe them a lot, because this hobby for me has gotten me through the death of my parents, the death of my sister. It's gotten me through every personal tragedy and disappointment. And even when I'm having a bad day at work, the worst day I've had building a model is still better than some of the best days I've had at work. And it's not that I like my job, but so it's tough. And but to be able to look forward to this, and then even just, all right, I'm not going to go down to the workshop tonight, but I'm going to sit down. Oh, look, Tester's got a new video out. All right, I'm going to watch. I'm going to see what he's up to. See what's coming out next from Wenben or from Alpha Model. You know, the kits that I can't afford.
Me either.
But you know, I owe a debt of gratitude to folks like yourselves and the people that I mentioned, because it's made my life a lot better. It's made my life bearable. You know, you think about the people that entertain you, and that's how you get through your day. You know, there's a lot of
Yeah.
doldrums in life, and to have something that you look forward to is very important. And you need that catharsis in your life. You need to be able to have that release of the tensions of the day. And you know, we tie so much of ourselves to sentimentality. You ever notice that even though you objectively know that there are times in your life that were worse, you always think in sentimentality as if they were great times. But like I can't think back to a time in modeling that was bad. I've always loved it. It's always been like a special part of my life. And everybody that knows me knows, oh yeah, Frank builds. You ever see the models that Frank builds? I guess they're good. I wouldn't know a good one. You know, like, they think I'm good. Like they've never seen anybody
Right.
else's models, which is good. I mean, there's a part of it that's good. You know, I might actually be the best modeler on this block. Probably in the, tell you what, I'm the best modeler in this workshop right now.
Old state.
And that's all that matters.
Yeah, well said. Yeah.
For these two gentlemen who may not know who Will Pattison is, and for anybody in the comments who doesn't follow Will, because Will does a great deal of airplanes, mostly, also some armor, and does a few cars here and there. Will's famous for taking a Belkit's Ford Escort and putting it in a blender. I met Will online. I must have been 6 episodes into his channel, which has to be 7 or 8 years old at this point. And there was a gentleman named Andy Leaf who lives down in Texas. He ran a channel called Tactical Jackalope. I don't believe he's on YouTube anymore. And he had a Build It for YouTube contest, where it's basically going to be a photography contest when it comes right down to it. But it was called Top Speed. And so I was like, race car guy, this is right up my alley. And so I started building that black McLaren that I showed you guys last week that everybody was like, you build models. Yeah, I do. And Will was building a P-51 air racer, like the Reno air racers, where it's all, you know, chrome and blinged out. Easy for me to say. And so Will was a motocross rider who had an accident in a race, became paralyzed, like almost a quadriplegic paralyzation, and is still dealing with mobility issues. And it was one of those things where, like, if this guy can get in and build, I have nothing to complain about. There's absolutely nothing going on in my life that is nearly as difficult as it is trying to make my hands function again. And he built this thing, had some issues with it, proceeded to create his own decals for it, proceeded to create his own vinyl masks for it, proceeded to, you know, lay down this perfect paint job on it. I promptly lost. I finished second. And it was like, geez, this guy's pretty talented. And so I've been friends with him ever since, and I've known Matt, and Matt has certainly been somebody who I've watched a lot of his videos. He's an airplane builder for the most part, who has taught me how to, I think a lot of people call it spraying tight, where it is you're using your airbrush to spray very small areas without masking off the entire surrounding zip code. And he'll go into these things where he's painting, you know, metal tones and putting smoke and things over top of the metal tones to variate the metal tones over these tiny little, they're 1/48 scale jet planes, and like just little panels are suddenly like magically different colors because you can't see the paint coming out of the airbrush. It's like it just magically develops into a different color, and he's not masking anything while he's doing it. Now he's using like a 0.15 needle on a one of the GSI Krios brushes, but still, like these are two wildly talented people that I'm happy to call my friends, which I guess goes into my influences are, along with people like Moki Paints and A4 Garage and a lot of the other people we mentioned that are in the comments here. Sean, who are your influences since we're going around the room here?
I was thinking about that. The guy that kind of comes to mind that I think had the biggest influence on me was Tom Woodruff. And Tom, if you don't know, was one of the originators of the NNL format. And I remember meeting him many, many, many years ago up in Toledo at an NNL. And it was the first one I went to. And I had seen his work in the pages of Scale Auto and got to meet him and talking to him. And prior to that, I had gone to like model car contests and I was into competitive modeling. And I probably was getting to a point where I wasn't really enjoying it all that much, because in order to compete, I felt like I had to put a lot of work into things that I wasn't passionate about doing, like wiring engines and doing work that I didn't really like. And I met him and it kind of changed my perspective about model building, because he was just about model building for fun, just for the enjoyment of it. And he had neat ideas for things. He wasn't necessarily so worried about making it perfectly detailed or being a master model builder. I think it was about expressing. It was a way to visualize and bring to life in a 3-dimension, his ideas for hot rods and custom cars. And I was like, you know what? He's got the right idea. He's just building for the enjoyment of it. It's not, I mean, he's a good model builder. He probably could win contests. And I'm sure he probably won a ton of contests. But I think he just built for the fun of it. And that really changed my perspective. And ever since then, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to build the parts that I like. I'm going to glue the hood shut and never detail an engine. And because I don't care about engines, I just build the part of the car that I'm passionate about, which is usually like how it looks when it's sitting curbside. And I have a vision in my head for how I want a car to appear. And as long as I can manifest that, and even like I feel like I plateaued at a certain skill level of model making, and I'm perfectly comfortable with that. Like, it's not my desire to be a master builder. That's not what I'm building for. I'm building just for the enjoyment of expressing the vision that I have in my head and trying to get it into, something that's 3D that I can out of my head and something I can share with other people. And so, yeah, it was a really big influence on my style of building.
You're not getting away from this, James. He's looking up. He's being all quiet up there in the top right, being like, no. So come on,
don't call on me. Don't call on me. So Moki Paint is my hero at the moment. He builds, for those of you who don't know, he builds mostly Tamiya kits, and he builds them box stock to the best possible level, and that's all I can say. So he's my hero at the moment. Our friend John Zweber turned me on to the Good Smile racing cars. He had when he lived in Arizona, I lived in Arizona. I came over to his spot, and he had 10, 15 of these Good Smile racing cars. And I just stared at them and said, oh my God, I want to build them. I want to build them all. And I'm hooked. I'm hooked on all of them. And then I met Wen Ben, and now I have all the decals, and I have the kits. I just need the time to build them all. But I'm going to build every single one of them. Next thing I think I'm going to get into is probably the Japanese cars, and I don't know who I'm going to follow with those, but I think that's where I'm going next.
All right, Frank. So the last one for you personally here. Stealing a bit from the Plastic Posse podcast, Magnum Opus build. Your, be it one kit or perhaps a project that would be your your life's work accomplishment, so to speak. Obviously, it's not really, but the one thing that if you could build, you would, or a project. For me, I always reference. I have the kits and the decals to build a pretty much the entire winning lineup at the Macau Grand Prix from 1983 through the present day. And that would be my opus build, would be to build that series of race cars. So what would it be, Frank?
1974 Ford Galaxy 500 station wagon in green, in their like Highland green, black interior. And I'm almost, well, I got the beginnings of it. I have to take the wood paneling off of the side of this. This was my parents' car for most of my childhood. And my father purchased it off of a funeral home. It was a pickup car. Like they used to pick up the dead bodies from the hospital. But he bought it for $500. Changed the shocks. He had his friend change the shocks on the car in the parking lot of the funeral home. And then we proceeded to drive in that car up to Maine. Now that car was a land yacht. I couldn't reach across the car to punch my sister. That's how far it was. And we used to take trips out to, like, if you're from Long Island, you refer to people from New York City as Cityites. So we would take the Cityite trip every year out to the apple farms on the North Fork of Long Island. In this car, it would be my mother, my father, 2 aunts, 2 uncles, so that's 6 adults and 9 kids in that car. And it was like we could play a full game of hockey in the back of that car. And I have some of the fondest memories, but the unfortunately, like the worst memory of that car was how we lost it, because my father never, like I said, my father never changed the oil on anything. He also never got the automatic, like the transmission serviced. So this thing had a 460 with a C6 automatic in it. It was a truck engine. And he takes it to the neighborhood thief that was the mechanic. And I kept saying to this guy, Dad, you can't bring it to this guy. No, I know him. He's a good guy. Guy goes, yeah, you need a new transmission. It's $1,300. $1,300 in 1984 was a lot of money for a transmission. So I'm looking at my father. I grew up on the streets, kind of. So it's like, Dad, you don't know a con when you see one? He goes, no. I know him. He's a good guy. So they put the transmission into the car. 2 weeks later, car gets stolen. My mother comes back. She's holding bricks, like, because they were putting like a brick face behind the kitchen cabinets or whatever as like a backsplash. Somebody stole the car. I looked at my father. I go, gee, I wonder who that was. Somebody who knows maybe the brand new transmission in it. Oh, no, not that. Okay. I'll tell you what happened next, but I got to check the statute of limitations in New York State for criminal mischief.
So what Frank showed us there, that's one of those too many projects resin pieces.
Yes. Robert Burns. Yeah. His work is exquisite. It's really beautiful stuff. But this is going to be my retirement project when I retire from my current job. And I want to open up this hood and I want to get a 460 in there. And I'll take the wood paneling off, and I want this to be the model of that car because there were a lot of memories in that. And given the time, I think I can get it done. Unfortunately, I'm sorry.
I was going to ask, did it come with an interior, or what's your plan for the interior?
my plan for the interior is obscenities and a possible return to drinking.
Lots of sheet plastic.
Yeah, lots of sheet plastic. I could probably cobble something together out of another wagon kit. There is a company in out of the Ukraine called Diolex, and he sells full 3D printed kits. This one's a 68, I believe. I believe this is a 68. But this is a full kit with an interior and a chassis plate. So, I keep looking at his page on eBay to see if he would come up with this. I mean, I love you, Mr. Burns, but if this guy makes this, it'll be on eBay real cheap.
Is the AMT's 60 or there's a 70 4-door, right? Is that any of that usable?
Probably, yeah, probably. I think the wheelbases are similar. A lot of people use also Revell's Torino.
Okay.
For like a Torino, the Starsky and Hutch car.
Okay.
There are a couple of Torino wagons on the market, and you could use those. Maybe you put a little plug in there to get the wheelbase right. But it would be basically the same undercarriage, except maybe I think it's the same wheelbase. I don't.
Oh, we lost.
What happened to our host?
James, come back. I'm sorry. I'll shut up.
Scared him off.
Yeah.
No, that looks like a super cool project.
I can't wait to get it started. I'm looking forward to retirement very much. It's been a lot of years out in the cold.
Robert Burns was at the NNL, and I was drooling over his table, and I had money in my pocket. If he had the car I wanted, I would have bought something, but unfortunately, he didn't have the thing that I really wanted, so I didn't pull the trigger yet. But
what are you looking for?
And C1 was right next to him.
He's got a whole series of G bodies, the Colonnade. And I really would like to get like the 73 GTO or the Grand Am.
Right.
Nice.
He didn't have one in hand, or I probably would have took it home.
If I ever see like a 76 Mercury Brougham or like the upscale 2-door LTD, I'm getting one of those because I love those cars. Remember Uncle Buck, his car?
Yeah.
I'd love to build one of. I would love to build one of those. I love that movie. It was one of my favorite movies. I love John Candy. I miss him so much. Can you imagine how much laughs we would have had if he was still around? Like how many more movies he would? Oh, what a delight! What a delight!
Hey, I had a question for you guys. Since we were all at the NNL, I'd like to know what was your favorite model that you saw there?
Is it hack to say Randy Dare's Corvette? I mean, I realize that thing's won Best of Show at GSL and everything, and it's not necessarily the newest build out there, but I mean, at some point during the day he took all the body panels off of it, and it just kept getting better and better the longer the day went. It was like, oh, this is really impressive, and then this came off of it, and like, oh, that's wow, and then the whole body came off of it, and you're just sitting there going, oh my, okay, this is that level of modeling that I personally will never obtain. And again, the nicest person on the face of the planet. Now he was trying to talk James and Marcos into judging at a model contest, which was a failed effort. And as somebody who's the head automotive judge in an IPMS chapter, I'm on Randy's side. You got to get you guys out to judge some point. But yeah, that and Kolenkowicz's custom stuff was out there. It's first. I mean, Tim's one of those people that I knew of, but I'm the worst person with names. I mean, I know Frank because Frank said he's Frank from Frank's Model Works 85 times in the last 3 months on my YouTube feed. But otherwise, I'd walk up to Frank and be like, "Oh yeah, that's the guy with that funny accent that I talked to in Jersey last year." I famously didn't know people in my own club's name for the longest time, even though like they were in a meeting every time, because you don't walk up to people and be like, "Hi, I'm so and so" at your club meeting. You show
Right.
up and you're like, "Oh, you're hanging out with these people." Like, oh, so Tim was one of those people where like I know who Tim is, but now that I've seen his builds, oh, okay, yeah, sure. Marcos had some stuff on the table. It was really nice. I mean, we put out these. If you got one and you haven't contacted us, and like only 3 people have, so it didn't go over quite as well as I hope it would. But if we put down a little business card next to your model, it didn't necessarily mean that we in real time wanted to sit down and talk to you about the model. What we wanted to do was put you down here in the interview chair and talk to you about your models and your whole I don't want to say life history because we don't have time for that. Yeah, but we want to talk about your story, how you got started, what you build, what your whole modus operandi of that whole thing is. But yeah, I mean, I took pictures of probably 20 things or so, which and I went back and looked at them, and like half of them were Randy Dare's Corvettes. So yeah, that one for me, I'm sticking with Randy Dare's Corvette. Final answer, won Best of Show at NNL East, which is a show that doesn't have awards. So
yeah,
that's always
Randy's Corvette, I think, defines what James Tester was saying about each part being a model within itself. Like his Corvette is 1,000 models in one model.
Agree. Totally agree.
I'm gonna go out on.
And Randy is the nicest guy ever. He really is. Genuine.
There was a young man named Lewis. I forget his last name. Very respectful young man. I mean, whoever raised this young gentleman did a wonderful job, because he called this dirtbag me. He called me sir. I introduced myself to him. He had a red Pro Sport Pro Stock Vega on the table that it was like a candy red with gold decals. That if that's what he's building, and he looked like he was maybe early 20s. If that's what he's building now, I want to live to 85 to see what he builds at my age.
Yeah.
I want to see his, and also Dylan Thomas from NYS
Oh, for
Modeling.
sure.
If I actually I introduced myself to him as well. When I first started watching his channel, it was in 2021. He's the one that made me try 2K Clear for the first time, watching his tutorial, and it actually got me through it. And then I realized after I woke up, I need a respirator also, because that is really nasty stuff.
It is.
But Dylan put that green Volkswagen on the table. That stood out. Anything from Marcos Cruz, his paint is just, it's like unreal.
Go ahead, say it. It's like butter.
Yeah.
It is. It is like butter.
Yeah. Also a super nice guy. Marco, I had a chance to talk to him a little bit, and very cool guy.
Yeah. I use his method when I do a vinyl top. His is the best method out there. And it uses two different types of evergreen styrene, and then painting it from far away. The only thing that I do to modify his method is I'll use texture lacquer from MCW. But when I see, not that it annoys me, but when people use masking tape, you can get convincing results out of masking tape to put a vinyl top on. But 30 years, oh, there you go. My guy. Wait, I want to see a model that has masking tape like 30, 40 years from now. I think, oh, there's another one. What is he down in the comments seeing if he can make me drool?
Yeah. Tim's work was really cool in person. To see it, really neat.
Yeah.
Great guy too.
There we go. Track nose.
For the people that on the Spotify, we're looking at pictures of model cars.
Yes, these files will be on our Facebook page when the episode uploads, so you can see what we're currently drooling over, I guess.
Right.
Well, we're looking at Frank's drooling. I can't control him.
Might have to take my shirt off.
Oh, please, God, don't.
It's not that kind of show.
Let's say, or turn your camera off first, at least.
You're right back.
James Sester,
rated.
What was your favorite, James?
Oh man, I saw so many good things. I won't even pick one. Randy's is up there. Marco's is up there. Bob Jernigan's stuff is up there. Just so much good stuff. I won't even pick one.
You know, it's something that Frank and I were talking about while we were standing there, and I think he mentioned in his video. It is the annual pilgrimage to New Jersey that makes you want to throw all your stuff in the garbage when you get home.
Yeah, it's my annual trip to New Jersey, paying $40 in tolls and $75 in gas for a very succinct reminder of just how bad of a modeler I am. It puts it in no uncertainty. Frank, you know how bad you are? Here's 1,300 ways of how bad you are. 1,300 reasons why you're not that good at this. Maybe take up stamp collecting.
We're all good at something. Yeah. We really are. We are all good at something. I have no imagination whatsoever. So Tim Kalankowicz's work just amazes me. I can build something that I see or find a picture of, but I can't do what Tim does. I just can't do that.
To formulate it out of the ether like that is just. I think we should really try to get him to do the M100 as a Hirohata. And, I think we should get him to do that.
That only comes after the ultra wheelbase also build Liberty Walk. So something else. Oh, go ahead, Sean.
I was gonna say the one that stuck out to me. I mean, there's so many cool models there, right? I mean, amazing. The one that kind of stuck out in my mind is like I'd seen I think Gary Keene built a 49 Merc. It was a silver one. I think it won the theme. Normally everybody builds a 49 Merc kind of in the same style, you know, the lead sled. This was like this kind of it's hard to even describe, kind of
a wide body.
A wide body, kind of a steampunk, kind of it had a mishmash of several different genres of automotive styles. It all sort of worked. Like it was a cool design, and he had really neat. It had halo headlights in it, and I was like really curious. I'm like, how did you do halo lit up like halo headlights with little LEDs? And he kind of broke down and showed me how he built those, and I was just in like all of it. I thought it was super cool, and I just like the design of it.
What I liked about that display was his Mercury was over by where the club table was, and then diagonally across from it was Doug White's C2 Corvette that he built. That was the light metallic blue.
Oh, right.
Frosted clear.
Yeah.
So now when you looked at that 49 Merc, visually, it looked heavy. Like it looked the way and it was definitely imparted by the way that he built it. And it was like something that I was very impressed that he managed to visually add weight to something that, you know, probably weighs half a pound.
Mm-hmm.
Where Doug's, if you looked at Doug's, probably weighed the same, physically weighed the same, had the same mass as the Mercury, but it looked lighter. It looked like it was featherish and almost made out of graphene, so that like if you blew in its direction, you might knock it over. And I actually said that to Doug, and he goes, if you want, you could pick it up. I didn't think no, I don't want to pick it. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to go near it. This klutz? Are you kidding me? and you go flying across. One of the things I noticed, and I don't want to tell tales out of school, but when I was one of the things I learned setting up the tables was that every single leg in that place had to be checked, because there was sometimes when we were lifting them up to put the PVC underneath, the other end would collapse. And I'm saying to the guy that I'm setting the tables up with, I go, could you imagine what would happen if one of these things went down? And then I started having like a panic attack. And then I'm like, I'm going back and the guy announced, all right, 5 minutes to showtime. And I'm like, I'm hitting the legs, making sure. Could you imagine, God forbid, if one of those tables came down? And then I heard that a couple of years ago, one of the members of the Tri-State Model Car Club, he's actually a friend of mine, Dave Wood. Dave likes to put his entire collection out. Like I was teasing him.
I know
the last show. I go, Dave, what's the matter? You only brought one table full? And it actually happened to him. They were setting up and he had all his models on a table. And a guy goes, I need to move this table. And he moved it. The table collapsed and all of his models fell off. And he had to fix them. And Dave builds well. I mean, it's not like a table full of my garbage. like people like whoever knocked the table with my stuff on it, you'd see like somebody, you'd see James Duff slipping the guy at 20. Good job.
I don't know. This would take a
Good
20.
job.
I forgot I got that for 10.
Get them next year. It's going to be all Mustangs.
Yeah, that's right. So one thing. Go ahead, Frank. Finish.
And a couple of Porsches.
Yeah, exactly. So one thing we saw from Revell, and this isn't necessarily a new announcement because we know it was coming, and again, we're looking at models for the radio audience, was Corvettes. So Revell is going to be putting out 2 C8 Corvettes now that we're probably, like a year away from C9s, because it's Revell's modus operandi, put the thing out after it's almost done. But there's going to be 2 kits here. There's going to be a Targa top, which prior to looking at this, I did not realize that every C8 is a Targa top. Like, there's no actual metal roofed Corvettes at this point. They're all Targa tops, at least. And then they're making a convertible. And they are doing 2 different bodies with this, where the Targa top is going to have this is the Targa top. The Targa top on the left here is going to have like the engine compartment that comes off that shows you the engine, and then the convertible is going to have this bigger piece with the sort of the engine clear through, so the whole thing will tip up. So it's interesting. They're giving you both options, and that they actually went out and made 2 different style of rear hatch access. It's going to have right-hand drive for any folks in the UK or Australia who may watch this back at some later date. Apparently, from what I was reading, this is the first Corvette since 1953 that's coming out of the factory with right-hand drive. That in previous years it was Australia, Japan, wherever, those were conversions done in country. Once the cars were shipped over, they were converted in country. So for folks that do that sort of thing, having that option in the kit, I'm sure we'll sell a few. It'll get released, of course, by Revell of Germany, as well as here in a regular North American box. So it'll be a global kit for all to enjoy. I don't know if anybody even cares about Corvettes anymore.
What do you guys think? Anybody
Put me down for a convertible.
Sold.
I'll build a convertible.
It looks like a nice kit. I'm a C8 hater. So
really?
Yeah, the engine's in the wrong end. That's not a Corvette. Sorry. I know the comments will probably go in fire, but yeah, no. They never
need it. Buying 5.
They never put an engine in a Corvette in the rear. It's supposed to go in the front. So there you go. Nice kit though. I was looking at it on the table. Very cool kit, and maybe I will buy one and put the engine where it's supposed to be.
You will too. I know you will.
Or an altered wheelbase gasser.
Throw some liberals on it. There you go. Target top, probably. I don't think I need both.
Okay.
Or 4 or 10 of them.
Yeah.
So the question du jour of NNL, of course, would be 2 giant rooms full of stuffs for sale. We'll start with our guest down below here, Frank. What broke your wallet at the NNL East, if anything?
The Gulf station at exit 60 on Long Island Expressway.
Every restaurant between here and
every time I go to Jersey, I like to pick up a couple of cougars. Get your mind out of the gutter. Like I can pick up cougars in New Jersey. I can't pick them up in New York. I can't pick them up anywhere. I am a big fan. I am a hopeless fan of this generation of Mercury Cougar and Ford Thunderbird. So almost like instinctively, it's like a compulsion. As soon as I see one of those kits, I just buy it. So if you ever looking to make some money, just stick like a $45 price, or 45 would probably be my ceiling, but it would have to be a pristine example. But if you ever want to make money, put a few of those in, or if you ever want to capture me, you don't necessarily have to use bacon. You could use bacon and that generation of Thunderbird and Cougar. I've always wanted to get the real version of that Thunderbird. It was the 96 was the one. I want a 96 LX with 4.6 liter. So work it out amongst yourselves with the people in the comments. However you're gonna make that happen, it's just just make it happen. Even a stolen one, I don't care.
Well, one that nobody changed the oil on.
Yeah, exactly. As long as my father didn't. No, my father never owned one of those. Thank God.
Now, Sean, you're the person that doesn't have a big. I mean, you have a social media platform within Sven's World of Wheels on Facebook and Instagram, but you don't have a YouTube channel. So I actually have no idea. Did you buy anything in Jersey?
I did. I picked up the new Charger police car. So I got one of those. Super nice kit. I want to build the Georgia State Highway Patrol. So I don't know if anybody makes decals out there for it yet, but I'm in the market for a set of those decals. You can hit me up on Instagram or Facebook if you want to sell me a pair. But yeah,
there was a guy who owned a website that chronicled such things.
I know, police car decals.
Only I knew, and we knew him. Anybody know anybody like that?
James, does anybody make new decals for the new Charger kit?
As far as new ones, no. The Chimneyville ones might work because they've gone back to that orange print on the cars that they had back in the early 90s. There'd be certain things about it that wouldn't be right, like there's the Star GSP thing is on the back there for the cell phone number that didn't exist in 1992 when those decals were made. But I don't think that I almost said what's his face because that's a great way to advertise somebody. Oh, what's his face up there in Canada? I don't think Bill Bozo has a set. He might. You'd have to look, but he might have a set. But I don't know that they'd be scaled to the Motor Max diecast, and I'm not sure that's really 1/24th or not. It might be 1/27th. Some of those diecast are weird scales like that.
I have that diecast, and actually we were comparing them. The diecast a little bigger. I think it's 1/24 scale.
Yeah, I think it is. I think that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Say anything else? Just the cop car?
I see. I also bought the Super B kit with the new decals on it.
Nice.
And I probably got 5 or 6 of these already, but I didn't have the one with the new decals. I thought those were really pretty cool. I was actually kind of bummed. I really wanted a Jimmy Flintstone new Dodge Resin D100. And they were all gone by the time I got there, so didn't get one. But Better look next time.
So those supposed to went out the door in a big fat hurry because you guys were in line half hour before the show started. You were in there.
Yeah, he said
when the doors open. Yeah,
I know. He said he sold them out quick. I was probably. I mean, I was within the first hour of the morning. I went over his table. They were gone.
All right. If you have, for folks who weren't watching, James has been building a Jenga stack on camera in the background. So, Mr. Tester, what broke your wallet at NNL East?
One vendor in the one corner. He was just like a normal guy selling his stash, and he and I must have the same taste in kits because I spent all my money at one vendor. You guys know I like the Japanese Atasha kits, and this one was a good price, so I grabbed that one. And a Honda Fit. I have big plans for this one. You guys, James knows.
All right, this is the decaled, many decaled Honda Fit. Yeah,
lots of decals for that. And the steal of the day was the Ferrari F40. I couldn't believe it. He had $20 on it. They sell for like $100 on eBay, and I'm gonna make a Liberty Walk wide body Ferrari F40 out of it.
Nice.
Frank right now is checking to see if he has one because he can fund.
I do have one.
You do? Yeah, it's worth like $100.
Really?
Yeah, they don't. They
It's
won't
a lot of money
make
for
that
a
one
kid
again.
like me.
They don't have the license anymore.
So for any Ferrari or
I don't believe that Tamiya has the Ferrari license anymore.
oh, so wow, I have a bunch of Tamiya Ferraris. Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't think you're going to see the FXX or the FXXK again or the LaFerrari. I don't think we're going to see that for a while.
I have them all.
Yeah, me too.
Interesting.
There's been several
James,
things.
Did you buy anything?
No, I walked out scot-free. No, I was going to say on the thought of the Ferraris, there's been several things recently where people have said, I'm looking for such and such, and I go, oh, well, just go buy it because it's a common kit. They're available everywhere. And then no, they're not. And you go on eBay and they're $70. I'm like, when did that happen? Oh, I don't need this one anymore. Well, let's see. Some guy I know who really likes the good smile stuff met me in a parking lot and dropped off this. So for folks who can't see, this is the 2008 Miku BMW Z4 that Mr. Tester currently building right now on his channel. I ordered one when these were pre-released, I guess, technically speaking, and it came with James's shipment of stuff. So New Jersey was the first time we had a chance to meet up, and I could claim this and a couple of sheets of decals that I won't go into. And then the stuff I bought would be the stuff that you would never think I would buy because I'm the Japanese kit guy, right? So I was wandering around and I found I just sold my last one because I knew this was coming. So I picked up and promptly threw on the floor the 57 Ford Del Rio Hidden Valley Ranch wagon. I haven't opened it yet to see what the quote unquote chrome speed parts are supposed to be, but this has the whole supercharger setup for the engine, which is a problem the 57s had, where some had parts of it, some had other parts of it, and only the NASCAR kit had the whole thing. So it's all in the station wagon, which is, I think it's a great sleeper wagon, right? Who has a supercharged station wagon. So that's the general idea for that. I picked up the 68 Ford F-250 Custom Cab Mobius 4 because I have all the rest of them. This one I didn't have, so now I have them all. I'm sure that'll end up on the bench sometime, and then time the Ice Age rolls around. I picked up the reissue of the Ford Tudor, the Revell kits.
Those were getting money on eBay. They were getting money for those things before that. Yeah,
the old 2007 issue of them. Yeah, they were up there. This has the Halibran wheels that were in the 32 Roadster kit.
Stacy David, that one.
No, the High Boy, the one that came out,
the red one.
I say these are all part of the 32 Ford series that started in the late 90s. I don't know if that means that the High Boy Roadster doesn't exist anymore, or if they've truly decided to make these modular in the sense of taking the parts and moving them around, because the Stacy David kit and then the 32 Ford that they did to de-Stacy David, that kit that they put the Duval windshield in, that's its own tooling. They ran out of insert room on the original tool, so they had to make a new one. That's why that kit doesn't has a slot for the brake booster, but doesn't actually have a brake booster because, oops, we forgot to put that in the kit. This is based on the original one, and like I said, with these wheels, they've never swapped it. I mean, there must be, I don't know, guys, if we come up with a number here, but there has to be 8 different engines that this thing has altogether, between the modern, like, 302 Mustang engine, the older 302, right. Say the Hemi. This has a flathead in it. Like, there's a whole, I don't know if they're going to start mixing and matching beyond that to sort of, because the 3 window hasn't been out since 2007. The 5 window was out not too terribly long ago, but will they mix and match more? Who knows? Tune in to this channel for more detail. Picked up the Foose 65 Impala only because I had the original one in the great big box that Monogram put out, and it was just toasty, old, beyond all relief. So I got another one because I still like 65 Impalas. This was my steal of the day, 56 Nomad in the later 2011 boxing. Again, I had the original Monogram kit. These are ridiculously expensive. These are these are going for like $50, $60, $70 on eBay, because it's 13 years old now. And the guy, I got this for like 25. The guy was like, I can get more for that on eBay. I'm like, yeah, you could, but then eBay would take like 15-20% off the top. So let me take that money off the top right here, right now. And I think we settled on 30, which I figured $30 is what I paid for those brand new kits. So that was a reasonable price.
I could get 35 on eBay and a knuckle sandwich.
And then the last thing I picked up at NNL East is the 54 F1. Again, I had the original big box Monogram kit. At some point, I think it was the lowrider version, they put in the Arden flathead parts into it, which weren't in the original kit, and that's what I kind of wanted, was the speed parts for it. I think it's got like 3 sets of wheels in it, which are whatever. But I wanted the engine parts more than anything, and like I said, I sold the original one. And yeah, so I walked out of NNL East with 6 American model kits, and then I'm
disappointed.
That's it. And then just recently, just so people wouldn't lose faith in me, I grabbed the Alpha model LaFerrari Aperta, or the LaFerrari, because we didn't actually bother to spell that, in the way that it's LA with a capital F. Our kits are licensed. Shoot, they are. And so, yeah, I have a nice $150 resin.
Yourself.
That's right. I redeemed myself in the most expensive way possible. And actually, as we were gathering for this podcast, I was buying a Gazoo Corolla. So,
would you find one?
How much do those Alpha model kits go for?
If you can get them when they're fresh and new, they're 160 plus shipping. So
that face.
I'm with you, Frank. These guys are in different class than I am. I'll tell you.
You know what? I should call my wife down here. Tell her $160. She's getting off easy.
Exactly. Yeah.
And she gets to walk around with this on her arm.
Where did you find a GR?
Up in Canada. Same guy I got that RS6 from. Who's texting me now going, I wish I hadn't sold that for you. I have somebody else who wants one. Who wanted to pay more than you did. I said, well, that's tough. You sold it to me. It's mine now. You can't get in line behind Mr. Chester at the estate sale. Play your cards right. Maybe it'll come your way. Yeah, that was a good trip for me, because several of those last three are kits that I've been trying to replace now for a while. They were things that I thought the local hobby shop had in stock still, and turned out they didn't. I didn't realize the Nomad was as old as it was. I thought it was a newer release than 2011. And so grabbing all of those, I mean, that's 6 kits at $30 a piece. So that's $180. That's more than this cost. So that's a bargain.
I have a question for you guys. Do you guys have a go-to local hobby shop?
Sean?
Yes and no.
Sean shakes his head sadly no.
There's what is it? I don't even know the name of the place. There's a
Hobbyland, that's in Columbus.
Yeah, I don't think it's Hobbyland. Maybe it is. I go there a few times to get paint, and that's about the only time I go there because I don't buy any kits at a hobby store. So, sorry guys, but I don't. I don't really need another kit to begin with, and then when I do, I'll probably get it at a show because I can get it.
Svensson just dropped a flex on us. Did you notice that? The flex he just I don't have to buy my kits, peasants. They're giving it to me.
They come to me
That
free.
was some
you know,
flex. I thought we were gelling. It was wow. Just late in the game, Svensson comes out of nowhere and just dunks on Steffens.
Well, if you remember 2 episodes ago, Sean proudly declared that he doesn't buy model kits unless they're less than $10. So he can't go to a hobby shop. That's over retail
Right.
at this point.
That's kind of what. Yeah, I'm a cheapskate, so I just don't need another model kit. I have so many model kits; it's ridiculous. I can't find space to buy another model kit.
So yes and no, James. It's one or the other.
I forgot what the question is. Sorry.
Do you have a local hobby shop?
I'm sorry. I buy paints at a local hobby shop here, but kits wise, I just get everything online. I can't pay retail. I just can't. So if say we were just talking about this, the AMG GT3, it's $56 on Amazon, but if you order them from Japan, they're like $23, $24, and you just pay the shipping. So you order 3 at the same time, and they end up like $40 each.
Okay.
I have Auto Modelers LLC, guy named John Betker. If you're on the East Coast and you've gone to a model show, you have shopped at his wall of models at some point in time, as he travels to most model contests. And how he's he's out in Carlisle a couple times a year. He does what's the one up in what's the one in Detroit? That is the Autorama in Detroit he goes to, and a bunch of like 1-to-1 shows. But I buy most of my supplies through him, and I buy most of my American domestic kits through him because, I mean, I bought these kits for $30 thinking I got a deal on them, and then of course his price is cheaper because he's doing like mail order pricing, and then my import stuff's 98% Hobby Link Japan because again I'm not paying the U.S. shelf price for a Hasegawa kit because they're $23 in Japan and they're $45 to $60 in the United States, and even with international shipping, it's $10, $12 a model kit. So it's not really any more than what it costs to ship a kit from California to Pennsylvania than it is to ship it from Japan to Pennsylvania. So
right.
Then Frank's got what, Bayshore, right?
Bayshore Hobbies is the closest hobby shop to my house, and it's the weirdest thing. My barber is right next to it, so I have to go at least once a month to get my hair cut because I don't want to look like a hippie. So I have to go. And plus, if I don't go at least once a month, Bob from Bayshore Hobbies, he gets worried about me. I know he does. I ask him and he goes, yeah, whatever your name is. I mean, I've only been going there for 20 years. If you said here's $1,000, what's this guy's name? He's the fat guy with the glasses. I don't know. Yeah, but Bayshore Hobbies. When I first moved out here, I went in there and at the time I was building planes. Specifically, I was building 1/72nd scale Navy jets. So I had never seen a 1/72nd scale Hasegawa F4 Phantom on a shelf. I had only ever ordered them off of eBay or Sprue Brothers or something like that. And he had all of them that were ever issued. And the best part about it, like, it was so cramped in there that his models would get buried. And like if you could dig through without killing yourself, because the entire rack would fall on top of you, but you could pull something out of the back that is retailing for $80 and it might have a $29 price tag on it. So, I mean, it's not like getting them free, but I'm kidding you, Sean. I'm just breaking chops. That's what I do. But $29 is not bad for one of those kits. And you know, I used to find some pretty rare stuff. A couple of years ago, they had Justice Girls clothing store that was like 3 times as wide, but as deep as his store. And he waited. They went out of business. He waited, and it was empty long enough that the landlord for the subdivision that he was in said, "All right, you know, the rent was the right price." He moved in, and now it's literally anything you could think of in terms of the hobby. So he has Warhammer, radio control, everything. He's got shelves of cars. It's everything. As soon as it comes out, he gets it. And, you know, I have to check on him because I'm sure he's lonely. There was one time I went in there and I'm standing there. I think I had a Tamiya Ferrari in my hands and a couple of like lacquer thinner from Tamiya, or the airbrush cleaner. So like whatever it was is going to come out to like $100. The guy, 2 people in front of me, plunks down a credit card, pays like $24,000 for like some 2 gas-powered buggies that were like 6 feet long. And then the guy after him, he's buying nitro-powered radio control cars. His was like $6,000. So I walk up and I got 520s in my hand. Sorry to take up your time, Bob. You know, and he laughed at me. I mean, the guy's, but he's you would think that one of the largest metropolitan areas in the world would have, there's not a lot of hobby shops in New York. There's 2 in Suffolk County that are more like what our hobbies would be. And there are others, but they're more focused on radio control. I think Men at Arms is still around, and Bayshore. And then in Nassau County, there's Willis Hobbies. And they have a good collection of kits, but they're mainly trains and radio control. But they carry all the paints. I think Willis has model car MCW paints, which I mean, I'll go there just to buy them, just to have them in stock, because I collect paint as much as I collect kits. I do. I got a problem, but it's a good problem to have. You know, there's worse problems to have.
Right.
All right, so we'll throw out a shout out to Marcos Cruz and his group down in Maryland. This coming Saturday is the Mid-Atlantic NNL down in Havre de Grace. So if you are in the Baltimore, DC, Delaware, Southern New Jersey, Philly area, that's an option for your shows. And one last lightning round question here as we go out the door. This is a fun one because I especially know that James will have a saucy answer for this because he was in a mood today about his YouTube views. Unappreciated builds. I know, Frank, everything you build's a chicken cutlet and sucks. We've heard that for 2 hours now. But something you built that you really liked, that just was it just never got the recognition. Well, recognition is like a lofty term, but never got a recognition or the not so much viewership. You're too new to have a big long history on YouTube, but like something that just never got the recognition you thought it deserved. And Mr. Tester's already grabbed something off the shelf. He's already loaded up there.
I'm ready.
I know it's fun for you. You'll just go like, well, that last thing didn't get any views on YouTube. That's unappreciated. Oh, no, that doesn't.
No.
Let Mr. Oh, I got it.
Is that a diorama? What am I supposed to do with this? It's got like a big. It's got like a boom. It's got like a boomstick on it and everything. Look, what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah, I would say. Well, that one actually did well at a contest, but it was a lot more work than I thought I would get out of it. It took me the entire lockdown of the pandemic to do.
Wow.
And I was home. I was home because I got sick. I was home for almost 3 months, every day, hours and hours a day. And you know who likes it the least? I don't like it. My daughter wants it though, so I would have gotten rid of it already, but my daughter wants it. So there are certain models I'll never give away, and those are the ones that she wants. So that's one I don't like it. It was annoying. It's 1/48 scale. It's all Tamiya except for the building, which was Verlinden. And everything about it was just like I got about 3/4 of the way into it, and I just started to hate the thing. So I finished it, and it suffered because of it. But I brought it to a contest on an off year where like more talented people would bring like something really out of control, impressive, and so it did well. But I don't like it. I'm glad she likes it, but it's underappreciated by me.
Sean, you got something?
Yeah, one that comes to mind. So I like to, obviously I build a lot of muscle cars. About a year ago or 2 years ago, I built a 69 Falcon, and I built what would, in my mind, was an imaginary two-door version, kind of based on the Australian XB GT, whatever.
Yeah, I can picture it.
Falcon. And I thought it was a cool concept. I'm like, oh, what if, if America in 1969, they were going to offer a high performance version of the Falcon, and they'd, it was built just the same way that Australia did, but it was on a two-door platform. So I shared, brought all the same design characteristics over and put it on that car. And I thought I'd have a cool Phantom muscle car. I thought people would really like that concept. It was like one of the lowest counts on like my views on Instagram and stuff. And I remember some of the comments were like, they thought I had built an Australian car wrong. Like it's supposed to be a four-door because all those cars were four-doors. They never actually, in America or in Australia, they never had a two-door version of that car. And so I don't know, it just kind of fell flat. Just didn't seem to like connect with people, or I don't know, they thought I'd built it wrong or whatever. And I was like, I don't know. I thought it was a cool car. I like it.
It sounds cool. I love Falcons. Those are awesome.
I thought it was kind of unique.
They don't know what they're talking about, Sean. Don't listen to them.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Chester, you whipped something out of that case in a big fat hurry.
This is my no love Challenger.
No,
So I figured the 2010-ish Challenger from Revell and put a 392 Hemi in it, supercharged, and like the graphics and the wheels and just like everything I loved about this car and the color. And I have taken this as every contest, and nobody cares. Nobody cares about it. But I love this model. It's one of my favorites. It's the No Love Challenger.
I like it. I think it's sweet.
I like it. I think it's cool.
I do too. I think it's.
Was that a snap kit originally?
No. It's the full detail.
It's full detail?
Kit. Yeah. It's the 2010.
Did you graft a hood from a Viper on that, or?
No, it's a clearly scale resin hood.
Okay.
But I thought, this is a race car, so it's got to say Mopar on the side of it, and but it's the No Love Challenger.
Kolankowicz said he'd give you $900 for it.
James, have you built anything that you?
Wow.
The comments have been slagging me all night too. Steve Courtney, when I showed that station wagon, went, oh look, a station wagon I'll never build. I built that BMW Z4, that white one that's come to a couple of shows that you and I have been to. Now I built that black McLaren 12C GT3 car. And Brolin still wants that, even though it's in pieces. And it won first place in a couple of different places. It finished second everywhere that Brolin was at, because it's time. John Brolin is a local guy to me here, Frank. He built a 1/12 scale Lotus, the Johnny Player Special one.
Oh,
I
remember that.
As a commission build for somebody. Had $1,200 worth of PE and Top Studio stuff into this model, and then the guy never paid him for it, which is a whole separate sob story of its own right. But he had that one best of show like everywhere it went. And so my silly ass was like, hey, I'm going to enter competition classes too behind this giant F1 car. So I won second place everywhere that it hadn't gone. So I'm like, hey, people like my GT3 cars. It's foreign, which is usually a bad thing, but like, okay, I won stuff with that BMW. It's picked up awards at a couple of different places. And actually the same thing goes for the 320, where it's won awards at places, but it's gotten a lot more commentary. That Z4, I could run it over the steamroller in the parking lot with fireworks shooting off the back of the steamroller, and people would be like, oh, check that out.
I would pay money to see that, actually, if you could.
You know what? We can for $900 it can happen. The
ask Tim if he's in.
Yes, that has never gotten any. It has carbon fiber on it. It's decaled specifically to a car, and it looks like the one-to-one. I did the research on the decals of Studio 27 set, and they were like, put all this random crap on it, but it's for this race. And I got pictures of the race and took the stuff off that wasn't supposed to be there. I was, it's not the most fantastic thing in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but it's like, yeah, this is good. This is on par with the thing that won a bunch of. No, it's. I think it's because white people don't white cars just like their appliances. They blend into those, right? Yeah, exactly. And so that's my love. And I will say, on top of that, it's People's Choice contests. Can't stand them. The stuff the stuff that I build. Like, if you're going in for NNL's its own thing, because it's just so many people, and the quality of work is so ridiculous that, like, I'm not there to win anything in the first place. Although I believe Sean did Sean not win Bronco? Did you not win the Bronco theme?
Yeah, that one surprised me. I wouldn't have given myself a trophy, but I don't know.
So somebody in this call actually did win an award at a show that gives out no awards. But yeah, but the smaller People's Choice, like we used to run a People's Choice contest, drove me crazy. Or the NNLs that have the top 10, top 20, where it's like, well, we don't give out awards because it's NNL, but people complain that we don't give out awards, so now we give out 10 of them. And it's like, look, either judge it or don't. But my stuff universally gets absolutely no. I've literally not placed in a People's Choice contest that had 4 entries in competition, so I was the loser of 4.
I wouldn't win. I wouldn't win a People's Choice in this house. I mean, you could come over if you want. Bring your stuff. You're gonna win. You want a plaque? Just come to the Steffens house. You'll get one.
All right, boys and girls, that was a good one. We appreciate everybody for joining in with us. It was a great show tonight. I want to thank Frank especially for taking time out of whatever schedule he has. Usually he's in the comments throwing darts anyway, so clearly he had nothing better to do on a Monday night. For folks listening on the podcast, all of his socials will be in the show notes. We do now have an email address, so if you have any comments, questions, topic suggestions, or anything of that nature, you can email the Autopod at yahoo.com. That's TheAutopod, the Autopod at yahoo.com. Also, we like to say that if you're listening to this on the podcast platform of your choice, to give us a 5-star rating if you enjoyed the show. That certainly helps spread us further in the algorithm as we actually start putting the shows out online. We do record these shows live on YouTube every other Monday. Check our channel listings, which again will be in the show notes for that. If you're on a podcast platform that doesn't do reviews like iHeart, which is what I use for my podcast, then subscribe to the podcast, follow it so you always get the latest drops when they show up. And that subscription is how they keep track of what's popular, and it'll put us further out in those algorithms as well. So again, from myself, Frank, Sean, James, thank you all for joining us tonight, and we'll see you guys on the other side.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.